The War Council thought they had seen every kind of soldier in the galaxy. They thought they understood combat. Then someone asked about a single Earth Marine, and the numbers didn't just surprise them, they horrified them. One Marine, countless enemies, and a kill ratio that defied belief. In that instant, the Council realized a terrifying truth. Humans aren't just fighters. They are a force the galaxy cannot ignore. The impossible numbers. The crystalline walls of the High Command Chamber pulsed with a dull crimson light. Supreme War Marshal Tardek stood at the head of the circular table, his three-fingered hands pressed flat against the cool surface. Around him sat 20 of the most decorated military minds in the Krybeth Collective. Not one of them made a sound. The silence was suffocating. Tardek had commanded fleets through 6 campaigns across 4 decades. He had broken the Shentari uprising in less than a solar cycle. He had orchestrated the surrender of the Verlax Empire without losing a single ship. His tactical brilliance was studied in military academies across 11 star systems. But today, for the first time in his long career, he felt something unfamiliar crawling up his spine. Fear. 3 years, he said finally, his voice cutting through the stillness like a blade. 3 years ago, we entered this conflict with the Orvani Federation. Our projections indicated complete victory within 14 months. Our technology outmatched theirs. Our numbers were superior. Our battle doctrine had proven effective against 17 previous adversaries. He paused, letting his silver eyes sweep across the assembled officers. Each one wore the same expression of barely concealed unease. Today, I received casualty reports from the 7th and 9th battle groups. Both have been forced into defensive positions. The Orvani have retaken 6 colonies we secured 18 months ago. Our forward operating bases in the Kepler Belt have been abandoned. We are losing ground in every theater of operation. General Voreth, commander of ground forces, shifted in his seat. His scales rippled with nervous energy. Marshal, with respect, the Orvani have not significantly improved their capabilities. Their weapons technology remains inferior. Their tactical responses are predictable. By all calculations, we should still be winning. Then explain this. Tardek gestured toward the holographic display dominating the center of the chamber. The air shimmered, and numbers materialized in glowing amber text. Statistical breakdowns, casualty ratios, combat effectiveness metrics. But one figure stood out, highlighted in pulsing red dot human marine cores. Kill ratio 1 to 127. The chamber erupted. Officers rose from their seats, voices overlapping in protests and accusations of data corruption. Borith's voice rose above the others. This is impossible. No species achieves ratios above 115 in sustained combat. Not even the legendary Korthan warrior clans managed better than 132, and they were genetically engineered for war. Silence. Tardek's command echoed off the crystalline walls. The officers fell quiet, but the tension remained thick in the air. Intelligence officer Zelthrin stepped forward from her position near the wall. She was younger than most officers present, her scales still showing the deep blue of her second molt. But her eyes held a certainty that made even the most senior commanders pay attention. Marshal, if I may present my findings. Tardek gestured for her to continue. Zelthrin activated her personal console, and the display changed. Now, it showed a 3-dimensional tactical map of the conflict zone. Red markers indicated Krybeth positions. Green represented Orvani forces. But scattered throughout were small yellow dots, numbering no more than a few dozen. When the Orvani Federation requested assistance from their allies 18 months ago, we did not consider it significant. The species that responded, humans, from a world they call Earth, sent what they described in their official communications as a modest advisory force. The numbers were laughable. 42 individuals calling themselves Marines. She highlighted one of the yellow markers, and it expanded to show a tactical engagement. This is the Siege of Outpost Meridian. 12,000 Krybeth assault troops attacked an Orvani supply depot. The depot was defended by 200 Orvani soldiers and one human marine. Just one. The display showed footage from Kryveth combat drones. The outpost was a cluster of prefabricated structures surrounded by defensive barriers. Kryveth forces advanced in textbook formation, overwhelming fire superiority forcing the defenders. Back building by building got, then the human appeared. The figure was smaller than a Kryveth warrior, covered in angular armor painted in modeled patterns. It moved with a fluidity that seemed wrong, too fast, too precise. The human disappeared behind a storage container, and 3 seconds later, an entire Kryveth squad went down. Their formation shattered by perfectly placed shots from an angle they hadn't been watching. The human held that depot for 6 hours, Zelfrin continued. 6 hours against continuous assault from a numerically superior force. When reinforcements finally arrived, they found 947 Kryveth casualties. The humans survived with minor injuries. One soldier, Vorath whispered. One soldier caused nearly 1,000 casualties? That's not the worst part, Zelthrin said. Her voice was steady, but her scales had paled. This is not an isolated incident. We have documented 73 separate engagements involving human marines. The pattern is consistent across every encounter. These creatures fight with an efficiency and lethality we have never encountered before. She pulled up another video. This one showed a human in different armor, moving through a destroyed urban environment. The footage was grainy, captured from a dying soldier's helmet camera. This is Corporal Sarah Shen, age 24 in human years. According to intercepted communications, she had been a Marine for less than 3 Earth years. Watch what happens. The human moved like smoke between ruined buildings. Every movement had purpose. She peered in windows, fired 3 shots, and vanished before return fire could reach her. She used the environment itself as a weapon collapsing weakened structures onto advancing troops, rigging unexploded ordnance into improvised traps, turning what should have been her disadvantages into devastating tactical advantages. How many did she kill? Tardik asked quietly. 67 confirmed. Before she was extracted by Orvani transport, Tardik felt his breathing slow. Around the table, officers stared at the frozen image of the human's face, visible through her helmet's transparent faceplate. She looked so fragile. 2 eyes instead of the efficient compound vision of most advanced species. Soft skin visible at the neck seal. No natural armor plating. No enhanced sensory organs. She looked weak. There are currently 42 human marines deployed across our conflict zone, Zelthrin said. If we extrapolate current casualty rates and factor in strategic positioning, these 42 individuals are responsible for approximately 15% of all Kryveth combat losses in the past year. The number hit like a physical blow. 15%? From 42 soldiers in a war involving millions. How? Borth demanded. How is this possible? What technology are they using? What weapons? That's what makes this so concerning, Zelthrin replied. Their weapons are not significantly more advanced than ours. Their armor offers less protection than our standard combat shells. Their ships are adequate but unremarkable. The advantage is not technological. Then what is it? Zelthrin met the marshal's eyes. That's what I've spent the last 4 cycles investigating. The answer is not something we've encountered before, because it's not something that can be easily measured or countered. She pulled up a new file. With your permission, Marshal, I'd like to present my complete findings on human combat capability. But I must warn you the conclusions I've reached are disturbing. Tardek looked around the table at his officers. He saw fear now, open and unmasked. These were warriors who had faced enemy fire without flinching, who had led troops into impossible situations and emerged victorious. Now they sat like frightened children, staring at images of creatures that looked like they shouldn't be able to survive a standard gravity well. Show us everything, Tardik said, because whatever the truth was, they needed to know it. They needed to understand what they were really fighting. before it was too late, got the truth behind the legend intelligence officer Zelfrin, activated the central display again, and the images of human marines were replaced by something else entirely. A planet, blue and white and green, spinning slowly in a holographic projection. "This is Earth," she began. "The human homeworld. When we first received intelligence on this species, our analysts classified it as unremarkable. A standard M-class planet in an unexceptional star system. But we were wrong? Catastrophically wrong." She zoomed in on the planet's surface. Earth is what xenobiologists classify as a Class 7 death world. Several officers leaned forward. Death worlds were rare planets where the very environment was actively hostile to complex life. Most species that evolved on such worlds either went extinct or never developed beyond primitive stages. The human homeworld has surface gravity 23% higher than Kriveth standard, Zelfrin continued. Its atmospheric oxygen content is toxic to most spacefaring species. Weather patterns include electrical storms with energy discharges that would disable our ships. Rotating air masses called hurricanes, with wind speeds exceeding 200 kilometers per hour. And temperature variations from -60 to +70 degrees in certain regions. She pulled up images of Earth's wildlife. Creatures with fangs and claws. Massive predators that dwarf the humans standing near them for scale. But the environment is not the most dangerous thing on Earth. The most dangerous things on Earth are other Earth life forms. Humans evolved not as the dominant predator, but as prey. Their evolutionary ancestors spent 2 million years being hunted by creatures stronger, faster, and more naturally armed than they were. How did they survive? Voreth asked. They got creative. And then they got mean. Zeltrin displayed a timeline of human technological development. While our ancestors were developing agriculture and mathematics, humans were perfecting the art of killing. Not because they wanted to, but because everything on their planet wanted to kill them first. They learned to fashion weapons from stones, then better weapons from bronze, then iron, then steel. Each generation found new and more efficient ways to end life. She paused, and her scales shifted to a deeper blue, a Kriveth expression of deep concern. But here's what makes humans truly unique. After they conquered their natural predators, after they became the apex species on Earth, they didn't stop fighting. They turned on each other. The display showed image after image. Ancient human warriors with primitive spears. Medieval soldiers in metal armor. Modern armies with chemical weapons. Each image showed humans fighting other humans. 12,000 years, Zelfrin said quietly. For 12,000 years, humans have been at war with themselves. Constant, unending, brutal warfare. They have developed and refined combat tactics against the most dangerous enemy. They could possibly face other humans who think like they do, adapt like they do, and fight with the same desperate creativity. She pulled up a document, text rendered in glowing characters. This is from their own historical records. In one particular conflict they call World War II, over 70 million humans died in just 6 years. 70 million? To put that in perspective, that's more than the entire current population of the Kriveth Collective. The chamber was silent. Officers stared at the numbers, unable to comprehend such devastation. They killed 70 million of their own kind? General Voreth's voice was hollow. Why would any species do such a thing? Because they couldn't stop themselves. Warfare is encoded in human culture at such a fundamental level that they barely recognize it. They teach combat to their children through games. Their entertainment revolves around conflict. Their greatest heroes are warriors. War is not something humans do, it's something they are. Zelthrin brought up a biological schematic. A human body, rendered in 3 dimensions with various systems highlighted. But the cultural aspect is only part of what makes them dangerous. Human biology itself is optimized for combat in ways we never anticipated. When humans perceive danger, their bodies release a chemical cocktail they call adrenaline. This compound increases their strength by up to 30%, accelerates their reaction time, and suppresses pain signals to the brain. They can continue fighting through injuries that would incapacitate any Kriveth warrior. She highlighted the human cardiovascular system. Their hearts can sustain elevated combat output for hours. Their muscles are redundant. If one group is damaged, others compensate. They can function on minimal sleep, minimal food, and minimal water for extended periods. Earth's hostile environment created survivors, and 12,000 years of warfare refined those survivors into perfect soldiers. You mentioned creativity, Marshal Tardek said. Explain that. Human tactical doctrine is unlike anything we've encountered. Most species, including our own, develop standardized combat procedures. We identify effective tactics and train our forces to execute them. Humans do the opposite. They train their soldiers to think independently, to improvise, to turn any situation to their advantage. She played footage from another engagement. A human marine trapped in a damaged building, surrounded by advancing Kriveth forces. The human had lost their primary weapon. Instead of surrendering, they grabbed what looked like a civilian power generator, modified it in seconds using tools from their armor, and turned it into an improvised explosive device that collapsed the building's entire facade onto the attackers. That marine had zero formal training in demolition, Zelfrin said. They simply saw a tool and understood how to weaponize it. Every human marine is trained to think this way. They don't follow predetermined tactics. They create new ones in real time based on available resources. She pulled up communication intercepts. But perhaps most disturbing is this. The holographic display showed text messages between human commanders. Zelfrin read aloud, "Marine deployment to Irveni space approved. Sending first squad, second platoon, should be more than adequate for a peacekeeping role." She looked around the chamber. This was their official military assessment. They sent 42 soldiers to a war zone involving millions of combatants. And they considered it more than adequate, not because they were arrogant, but because they genuinely believed it. They don't understand their own capabilities, Tardek said slowly. No, Marshal. They don't. To humans, what we consider impossible is simply ... normal. A single human holding off 1,000 enemies for 6 hours. They have stories about such things from their own history. They call them heroes, but they don't consider them supernatural. Just soldiers who did their job well. Zelthrin pulled up one final document. I access human military databases through intelligence channels. Do you know how many humans are currently serving in their Marine Corps? 600,000. And that's just one branch of their military. Their total military force, if fully mobilized, could exceed 200 million trained soldiers. The implications hung in the air like a poisonous fog. At a kill ratio of 1 to -1-100-20-7, Vorith whispered. They could ... eliminate every Kriveth in the galaxy, Zelthrin finished. If they wanted to. If they understood what they were capable. If they deployed even 1% of their total military force against us. Marshal Tardek stood motionless for a long moment. His mind raced through calculations, tactical assessments, strategic options. Every path led to the same conclusion. Why haven't they? He asked finally, if they're this powerful, why send only 42 soldiers? Because they don't see us as a threat, Zelthrin said. To them, this is a minor border dispute between allies. They sent what they considered a token force as a diplomatic gesture. They're trying to help the Irvani without escalating tensions. They're showing restraint. Restraint, Tardek repeated the word slowly. They're showing us mercy, and they don't even know it. He walked to the holographic display and stared at the image of Earth, that beautiful, terrible planet that had forged the most dangerous warriors the galaxy had ever seen. Zelthrin, compose a message to Earth's diplomatic corps. Tell them the Kriveth Collective wishes to open immediate peace negotiations with both Earth and the Irvani Federation. Offer full territorial concessions, reparations, whatever they want. Marshal? Vorith stood. We still have the numerical advantage. If we press the attack, then they will stop showing restraint. Tardek cut him off. Right now, humanity thinks they sent advisors. They think they're providing support. If we force them to recognize this as a real war, they will respond with real force. And we cannot survive that. He turned to face his officers. We started this war believing we were fighting a weak ally of a minor power. We were wrong. We're fighting a species that has spent 12,000 years perfecting warfare against themselves. Every human marine out there is the product of millions of years of evolution on a death world, refined by millennia of combat experience. Tardek looked back at the image of Earth, and the truly terrifying thing, they have no idea how dangerous they are. To them, what they're doing is ordinary, basic, just another day's work. We end this war, he continued. We end it now, on whatever terms they'll accept. Because if humanity ever realizes what they're truly capable of, if they ever stop being kind and decide to be ruthless, he didn't finish the sentence. He didn't need to. The War Council understood. They had stumbled into a conflict with a species that had weaponized survival itself. A species so naturally dangerous that their idea of restraint was still more lethal than anything the Kryveth could deploy. The message was sent within the hour. Peace terms were proposed. The humans, in their typical way, were gracious and modest in victory. They accepted the withdrawal with what their diplomats called gratitude for the peaceful resolution. They still didn't understand Dot and Marshal Tardek spent every remaining day of his life grateful that they never needed to.